Have you ever stopped to wonder about the price of progress? We often celebrate scientific breakthroughs as triumphs of human ingenuity, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But what happens when that relentless pursuit of knowledge veers off course, when the ambition to understand eclipses our moral compass? What if the quest to unlock the secrets of the universe leads us down a path paved with suffering and ethical compromise? This isn't just a theoretical question. History is littered with examples of experiments that, in the name of science, crossed lines that should never have been crossed. We're not talking about simple mistakes or unintended consequences. We're talking about deliberate choices to inflict harm, to exploit vulnerabilities, to treat human beings as mere subjects in a grand, often misguided, pursuit of knowledge. Think about the trust we place in institutions, in researchers, in the very idea that science is a force for good. We assume that those who hold the keys to knowledge are guided by principles of ethics and compassion. But what happens when that trust is betrayed? What happens when the pursuit of a cure becomes more important than the well-being of the patient? What happens when the desire to understand the human mind leads to its deliberate manipulation? These aren't abstract concerns. They are the echoes of real experiments, real people, real suffering. The stories we're about to explore are not easy to hear. They challenge our assumptions about the nature of science and the limits of human ambition. They force us to confront the uncomfortable truth that even the noblest of goals can be corrupted by a lack of ethical restraint. This isn't a condemnation of all scientific inquiry. Far from it. Science, at its best, is a force for good, a tool for understanding and improving the human condition. But it is also a powerful force, one that must be wielded with care and responsibility. The experiments we'll be examining serve as stark reminders of what can happen when that responsibility is forgotten. They are cautionary tales, lessons learned in the crucible of human suffering. They are a call to vigilance, a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge must always be tempered by a deep respect for human dignity and ethical principles. We're not just recounting history here. We're exploring a fundamental question about the nature of humanity itself. What are we willing to do in the name of progress? What lines are we willing to cross? And what responsibility do we have to ensure that the pursuit of knowledge doesn't come at the expense of our shared humanity? The answers to these questions are not simple, but they are essential, because the past, as always, has a way of informing the present, and the mistakes of yesterday can easily be repeated if we fail to learn from them. So, prepare yourself to delve into the darker corners of scientific history, to confront the uncomfortable truths that lie hidden beneath the surface of progress. This is a journey into the heart of ethical darkness, a journey that will challenge your assumptions and leave you questioning the very nature of scientific ambition. It's a journey we must take, not to condemn science, but to safeguard its future. The seeds of these ethical transgressions often lie in historical contexts ripe with social and political upheaval. Consider, for instance, the post-World War II era, a period marked by both unprecedented scientific advancement and a deep-seated fear of ideological enemies. The Cold War fueled a relentless arms race, not just in weaponry, but also in the realm of psychological and biological warfare. This atmosphere of paranoia and competition created a fertile ground for experiments that might otherwise have been unthinkable. The desire to gain a strategic advantage over the perceived enemy often trumped ethical considerations, leading to the justification of morally questionable research. The quest to understand and control the human mind, for example, became a central focus. Governments poured resources into projects aimed at developing mind control techniques, interrogation methods, and propaganda strategies. These efforts, often shrouded in secrecy, involved the manipulation of vulnerable populations, including prisoners, mental patients, and even unsuspecting citizens. The historical context of these experiments is crucial to understanding the motivations behind them. It's not simply a matter of individual scientists gone rogue. It's a reflection of broader societal anxieties and the pressures of a world teetering on the brink of nuclear annihilation. Similarly, the history of eugenics played a significant role in shaping attitudes towards human experimentation. The eugenics movement, which gained traction in the early 20th century, promoted the idea that certain groups of people were genetically superior to others. This belief system led to the forced sterilization of individuals deemed unfit to reproduce, as well as discriminatory immigration policies and other forms of social engineering. The legacy of eugenics created a climate in which the rights and dignity of certain populations were devalued, making them more vulnerable to exploitation in scientific research. Another crucial layer is the historical context of colonialism and its impact on indigenous populations. Throughout history, colonial powers have subjected indigenous communities to various forms of experimentation. Often without their knowledge or consent, these experiments were often justified by the belief that indigenous people were somehow less human or less deserving of protection than their colonizers. The historical exploitation of indigenous communities continues to have lasting consequences, both in terms of health outcomes and in terms of trust in medical institutions. Now, consider how this applies when you face information about scientific breakthroughs. Are you aware of the historical backdrop that may have influenced the ethics of the research? Do you consider the potential biases or prejudices that may have shaped the way the research was conducted? Examining the historical context of scientific experiments is not just an academic exercise. It's a crucial step in understanding the ethical implications of those experiments and preventing similar abuses from happening in the future. Reflecting on this journey so far, a pattern emerges, not of isolated incidents, but of a systemic vulnerability, a susceptibility within the scientific endeavor itself. It's as if we've been tracing the fault lines in a landscape we assume to be solid, revealing the inherent tensions between the boundless ambition to know and the ethical constraints that should guide that pursuit. The stories we've touched upon aren't mere aberrations, they're symptoms of a deeper unease, a cautionary echo resonating through the halls of scientific progress. The convergence of these narratives paints a portrait of ambition unmoored, a force capable of immense creation, but also profound destruction. Consider it akin to harnessing the power of a river. When channeled correctly, it irrigates fields and generates energy, but when left unchecked, it floods and devastates. The scientific impulse, similarly, requires careful channeling, a framework of ethical considerations to ensure its power serves humanity rather than subjugates it. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, demanding a re-evaluation of the very structures that govern scientific inquiry. It's not enough to simply condemn past transgressions. We must actively cultivate a culture of ethical awareness, one that prioritizes human dignity and well-being above all else. This requires a shift in perspective, a move away from the notion that scientific progress justifies any means. Drawing these strands together, we see that the true measure of scientific advancement lies not only in its achievements, but also in its adherence to ethical principles. The pursuit of knowledge should never come at the expense of human suffering. The quest for understanding must always be tempered by compassion and a deep respect for the inherent worth of every individual. As we pivot towards the final reflection, let us consider the enduring legacy of these experiments. They serve as a stark reminder of the potential for science to be misused, a cautionary tale that should inform our approach to scientific inquiry for generations to come. The challenge before us is to learn from these mistakes, to create a future where scientific progress is guided by ethical principles and serves the betterment of all humanity. It is a future where the pursuit of knowledge is not a descent into darkness, but a beacon of hope. The echoes of these transgressions linger, not as mere historical footnotes, but as a persistent hum beneath the surface of scientific ambition. They remind us that the pursuit of knowledge, while inherently noble, is a double-edged sword, capable of both illuminating the world and casting it into shadow. The line between progress and peril is often blurred, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure that we tread carefully, guided by an unwavering commitment to ethical principles. The stories we've explored are not simply cautionary tales. They are a call to vigilance. They urge us to question, to scrutinize, to demand accountability from those who wield the power of scientific inquiry. It is not enough to passively accept the pronouncements of experts. We must actively engage in the ethical discourse, challenging assumptions and demanding transparency. The future of science, and indeed the future of humanity, depends on our willingness to hold ourselves and others to the highest ethical standards. As we close this chapter, it's essential to recognize that the true reckoning isn't confined to the sterile halls of academia or the hushed chambers of ethical review boards. It extends into our daily lives, shaping the way we consume information, the way we interact with technology, and the way we view the world around us. The lessons learned from these dark episodes should inform our choices, guiding us towards a more compassionate and responsible approach to scientific advancement. The challenge now lies in translating these insights into tangible action. It requires a fundamental shift in our collective consciousness, a recognition that scientific progress is not an end in itself, but a means to a more just and equitable world. It demands that we prioritize human dignity above all else, ensuring that the pursuit of knowledge never comes at the expense of individual well-being. The true practice begins now, in the quiet moments of reflection, in the courageous acts of dissent, and in the unwavering commitment to ethical principles that will shape the future of science and the future of humanity. The responsibility rests with each of us to ensure that the pursuit of knowledge remains a force for good, a beacon of hope, and a testament to the enduring power of human compassion.